Welcome to Martin Monday's Intentional Intimacy, where love, life, and legacy meet in the moments that matter most. Every week, I will share sacred reflections of my 30-year marriage before Martin's passing, as well as our life now without him. May these reflections help us live with more weight, warmth, and wisdom. Martin was a letter carrier by profession, but a life carrier by purpose. So let's take a moment and let intentional intimacy speak. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode 14 of Martin Mondays. This is Paula. I am glad to be sharing on this journey with you. Our lesson today is about understanding the secret ingredient in your recipe. So, I want to tell a story about me and Martin. There's an old adage that says the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And so, as a 21-year-old marrying a 29-year-old, I wanted to get things right. So, I wanted to cook and make, delicious meals for my husband and, to make sure that he was well fed and all that. And so, I would cook these meals. I would get ideas, from my parents, or I would get like recipes and things like that. And I would, experiment and cook these meals. And Martin always loved them. He thought they were so good and really good. He's like, babe, that's good. Or, you did a really good job, and I'd be like, hey, I cooked for my man, And, sometimes he would get seconds, and an occasional third. I'm like, yo. But he really enjoyed the cooking, and it made me, feel very confident in cooking for him. But somehow or another, like around 45 minutes to an hour or so after dinner, he would be in the kitchen again. And I'm like, is he eating again? But he wasn't eating the food that I had cooked. He was eating from what I call like his staple list, peanut butter and jelly, tuna fish, or like the occasional like bowl of cereal. Like, wait a minute, you just said that all my food was good. You just said that you enjoyed it, but yet you coming in here eating this other stuff. Like, are you not full? Are you not satisfied? Like, what in the world? What is happening? And so Martin, in his classic Martin way, kind of taught me a lesson. He was just like, babe, it's not like your food wasn't good. I love it. But I'm a pretty, straightforward kind of guy. Like, I love my staples, my peanut butter and jelly, my tuna fish, my baked beans, like that's Campbell's baked beans. And that's one thing. It had to be Campbell's. He wasn't into any other kind but Campbell's, And so I'm like, for real? And he was like, yeah, as long as we have those in the house, just make your life a lot easier. You don't have to worry about cooking me, extravagant meals, once in a while, or something like that. But if I have those, I'm perfect. I was like, wow. So like at first I'm gonna admit that I was kind of like, well, dang, a little swole. But then I realized, wait, he's making my life a whole lot easier. All I got to do is make sure I keep these staples in this house, and that boy will be good. He'll be happy, happy, happy all the way. And so, needless to say, I've always kept the staples in the house, and he was always content because though he had the things that were his comfort things, the things that made him happy and that he enjoyed. And so I'm going to reflect on the other side. So, welcome to this reflection now on understanding the secret ingredient. You know, um, Once I understood Martin's expectations and what he was really looking for, cooking for him became a breeze. And so I think the key lesson here is that we have to make sure that even in very basic things that we don't rely on assumptions and that we actually have a conversation around what is expected, what is anticipated, because at the end of the day, it can make things so much easier. Like I could have been greatly offended by my husband's, eating these staple foods if I had never said anything, or had never asked the question. Like it could have created a big kind of like riff or just unnecessary tension and argument in our relationship. And so that is the key, to make sure in all thy getting to get understanding, because then once you have that understanding, then you know how to navigate and you know what to do, you know what's needed and what's not needed. And to be honest, having that understanding as a secret ingredient is going to make everything in life taste so much better. And so that is my advice to you this week. In all you're getting, get understanding. Don't be hesitant or afraid to ask the simple questions or the hard questions, but ask the necessary questions. Whatever is needful to get the understanding that you need, make sure that you get that clarification, because clarity is king. It is when your understanding is clear and there's no assumptions. Y'all know what happens when you assume. The word spells it out and lets you know. So let's not do that. Let's make sure that we have the honest, open, and transparent conversations and level set on expectations, because in that way it just makes it clear for everyone what we're doing, how we're doing, and why we're doing. And like I said, when we do that, everything in life will taste so much better. So that's your homework this week. Make sure you get understanding. Make sure you have the courage to ask the right questions so that you can get the right answers that you need for your circumstance and situation. Take care, and I'll catch you next week. Martin Mondays continues on Tuesday with the Tuesday Tea. Check it out and join me and take a sip. Martin used to say a lot of things. Some were funny, some were wise, but one thing he often said was, wow. Wow. Just those 3 letters. It spoke volumes. It meant a lot. When he didn't know what to say, wow. When he was excited about something, wow. When he was confused, perhaps, or even frustrated, he said, wow. And he's still saying wow. Through this bracelet, he's still saying wow, because he's still saying, may your whole life prove that God is good. And so in closing, that's my hope for you this week. May you have wow moments as you too are living out legacy. Live in the wow. Live in the reality of knowing that your whole life is good. Live in the heartbeat of Martin Mondays and intentional intimacy. May that anchor you in this week as you build legacy, one wow, one moment at a time. See you next week.